proof, that red line is the housing bubble. So the bubble we're in terms of tuition is dwarfs that. And finally, in K-12, what everybody's telling you is true. We're not where we want to be globally. Well, that's interesting. Oh, there we go. So what this conference, yeah, I could have done it without this slide. The solution a lot of people are choosing is to be at conferences like this one. That's the amount of VC and the number of deals that have gone into education in the past couple of years. And some people believe this is a bubble. I don't necessarily, but I do believe that a lot of the companies here are really going to have a hard ride. The first one, that some of the companies are trying to solve problems that are too small. They're not products, they're not companies, they're really features. They're not using data well enough, big data or small. They're not set up to deal with the incredibly slow selling cycles in education, both higher ed and K-12. And finally, the trust factor of education, the fact that this is my kid and I don't want to hear about your MVP, is a really important kind of thing to take into account. My solution to it is a company called Noodle Labs. It is a series of 4 companies that we're launching over the next 2 or 3 years, each of which attacks this space in some clever ways, all of which are about perfecting the education marketplace. If I'm successful, I think you guys will be more successful. The first of those companies is Noodle. The fact is, all of the companies share a process, an ideation process, a thoughtfulness in how we're going to go to market with it. They share a coaching aspect. I think putting together the right teams is hard. Putting a couple of senior people over them who have experience in education, who have experience in business and in startups is a good idea. Joe Morgan is working with me on this. Deep experience at Kaplan, ran their marketing from $750 million to 2.5. Each of the companies will invest between $5 and $15 million, and will basically run it, build a team, and then transition to the next one. And finally, like Virgin, they will share a set of values that I think is really important in terms of building brand awareness. The difficulty of building an education brand can't be overestimated and can't be overemphasized. And so we're going to build one, which is Noodle, with a bunch of shared values. The first company, as I said, is Noodle. And the problem we're trying to solve is that you're looking for a preschool or a college or a fitness instructor or a tutor or a video on the quadratic equation, and the universal constant is that the search is terrible. There are, and Noodle, in each of those categories and in every education category, seeks to be the way learners and educators can find one another in really smart, effective ways. There are 3.5 billion searches a month on Google for education, 80% of which are unbranded. People don't know what they're looking for. They don't even know the questions to ask about what they're looking for. And a good education search has to deal with that. It also has to deal with the fact that an education search, unlike most searches, doesn't take 5 seconds. It takes 2 to 3 weeks on average and can take 6 months. So it's got to be a slow process, but there are a lot of them. In doing what we're doing, we're trying to follow the game plan of a whole bunch of great companies who do vertical searches in one category or another. The fact is, education is a larger market than any of them, but the brands you all know. The point of Noodle is not to be the first thing that comes up on Google when you look up an education search. It is, that's where you go to do an education search, just like you go to Kayak to do a travel search, just like you go to Zillow if you're looking at real estate. The cradle to grave part is really, really important. Any one education search is very tough to build a business, which is why basically no one has. You've got people who aren't interested in kindergartens or whatever, become very interested, and then they're not interested. And you've got to aggregate them in an inexpensive way, and then you've got to monetize them very, very quickly. That's a tough business model. What we're hoping to do is build a trusted relationship with people that lasts throughout all their education searches, bringing them in the least expensive areas, monetizing them patiently when they get to something where there actually is a market. There are 3 parts of education search. And I think you'll see all of them in Noodle as it develops. One, an incredible amount of data aggregation. Some of that is handcrafted relationships with good providers in almost a Rotten Tomatoes-like way, where we'll aggregate little pieces and then send you off to detail. The second, some of it's bots and scrapers, and some of it is buying databases. Some of it's created by the providers themselves and by the users. There's a social aspect, which is different in education from almost any other sector. If you've got a kid with a learning disability, you want to bring in people who actually have dealt with it a little bit before you. If you're doing a college search, you want to bring in your parents, your counselor, a couple friends. If you're together in Econ 301 studying, you want to bring together a couple people together who are studying together and sharing resources, and occasionally going on a Google Hangout together to practice. The social aspect of any education search is really important. Tonight at dinner, if you see a table of 4 people sitting together, not even this crowd, they'll be talking about their kids. And finally, good wizards, good ability to help you ask the right questions to find the right solution. The milestones: we launched our minimally viable product finally in mid-January, and it's gotten some pretty good reviews from users. It's not bad. In 2 weeks, we launch our full site, and I think you're going to see some pretty outstanding stuff that brings all those together in a really user-friendly and positive way. We'll basically be spending the rest of this year looking to drive our monthly usage from 150,000 users up over 1 million and to 500,000 users by the end of the year. Thank you.